Another plateau in Jacob's life is getting ready to be set. In the last Torah portion we saw where Jacob earned the birthright, earned the birthright, or stole the birthright, and the double portion blessing from his brother Esau. And when you look at it on the surface, it looks like a lot of deception took place. And it probably did. God would have had it come about some other way if it didn't come about that way, because it was destined to happen, it was prophesied to happen. But it created some family issues for Jacob. And we see at the end of the Torah portion last week that Isaac calls Jacob and he blesses him and says, "You shall not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan." He says, "Arise and go to Padan Aram, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father, and from there take yourself a wife from the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother, from his uncle's house. And may God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and multiply you, that you may become a company of peoples." A couple of things happened here. Isaac continues to give the blessing to Jacob, the blessing that was given to him, the blessing that was given to Abraham. So this is the third repetition of that blessing that's been handed down through the promise that God made from the very beginning. And when Esau saw what had happened and how Jacob was being treated, he turned around and married from the local Canaanites, much against his mother and father's wishes. But he wasn't one to follow in obedience anyway. And it created an issue for Jacob because Esau was out to kill him. And so even though Jacob was following the command or being obedient to his father and mother, he was basically getting out of the local area to save his skin. He needed to run. He needed to run to get away from Esau, but he also needed to run to get away from mom and dad, because he needed to have his own relationship with the living God. And it started right from the very beginning, as the Torah portion starts off. He came to a place, they called it Bethel. He came to a place where he knew God was there, because God gave him a vision. He lay down at night, put his head on the stone, and God gave him a dream, and the vision spoke to him. And we had the vision of Jacob's ladder, the angels of God ascending and descending upon it, and God speaking to him. And he's telling him, he says, "I am the Lord, the God of your fathers Abraham, the God of Isaac. The land on which you lie, I will give it to you and to your descendants." Reiterating the promise. Your descendants will also be like the dust of the earth. And you will spread out to the east and to the west and to the north and to the south. And in you and in your descendants shall all the families of the earth be blessed. Similar to what Isaac had said to him. When Isaac said to him that you may become a company of peoples, the translation there for the Hebrew, it's like a teeming multitude is what he's talking about. A teeming multitude in the earth. That's lots of people. Lots of people. A teeming multitude. If you've seen, it's comparable. Teeming is usually used in reference to like fish when they're feeding on the surface of the waters. And if you've ever been out fishing or on a lake or in the ocean or whatever, and you see lots of fish feeding and small fish feeding, it's like the water is just bubbling. It's just teeming is what it is. It's bubbling. And he says, may you be like that in the midst of the earth. And then God says, may you be like the dust. So will your descendants be. The promises of God are true and are going to be fulfilled. If they haven't been fulfilled, they are going to be fulfilled. We're part of this teeming multitude in the earth. We're part of this dust that God had promised, because we are a part of the Israel of God. We are not separated from Israel. We are not separated from the Israel of God. We are part of the Israel of God. So we are part of the fulfillment of this promise. He says, your descendants will spread out to the east and to the west and to the north and to the south. Everywhere. And I don't believe it was just limited to the known world at the time. I believe he didn't put any limitations on it. You're going to spread out to everywhere. And when he dispersed the two kingdoms, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, he did just that. He dispersed them to the north and to the south and to the east and to the west. And so the whole earth becomes full of the sons of the promise. He says, I'm going to bring you, I'll keep you, and I'll keep you wherever you go, and will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised. And with this, Jacob awakes, and he's had his first really encounter with the living God. His first time God has revealed himself to him in such a way, in such a powerful way, that he says, surely, surely, the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. It impacted him to such a degree. It's like a born-again experience. It's like an infilling of the Holy Spirit. It's like something that shocked him and said, wow. Because up until this point, he's following mom and dad's command. Okay, I got to go back to Padan Aram. I got to find a wife. Plus, I need to get away from Esau because he's out to kill me. Operating in his own flesh, operating in his own strength. And then God reveals himself to him in a powerful, powerful way. And he says, surely, surely he is in this place. How awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God. Beit, the house of God. And this is the gate of heaven. And so he put a pillar in place. He put this pillar, he put this altar, this witness heap that he put together. He put it there to mark that place because it meant so much to him. And this is the beginning of his journey. The beginning of his journey. He has now had an encounter with the living God. And now he's on a journey that God is going to lead him through. Now Jacob being Jacob, he goes through and he restates everything. He restates everything that God had just said to him in a manner of, if you do this for me, and if you do this for me, and if you do this for me, then you will be my God. Because he's still Jacob. But he adds something to it. At the end, in verse 22, he says, this stone, which I have set up as a pillar, will be God's house. Now, he named the place Beit, but it's probably the very place where the temple stood. It's probably the Temple Mount. And that's exactly what happened. His house stood in that place. And of all that you give me, I will surely give a tenth to you. This whole idea of giving the tenth, the tithing, or whatever you want to call it, is something that was established from the beginning of time. And it meant so much to Jacob at this point in his walk. As he starts his walk, it meant so much to him that he commits and puts a value on what God is doing with him. And is going to live up to that value. He's going to commit to that. All that you give me, I will give a tenth to you. So he starts putting a value on his experience that he has with the living God. He doesn't know if he's going to have another experience tomorrow, or another experience the following day, or the following week, or the following month, or the following year. But he puts something, adds something to this interaction that he had with God and said, makes a commitment to him. He said, this is my commitment to you. When these things take place, this is what I will do. So it's like taking an oath. It's like taking a vow. But he values, I guess my point is, he values what just took place. And he's going to put that value into action. He's going to demonstrate that value in a physical way. And so he has this tithe that he's going to give. There's many things that we can say about Jacob and his walk, and who he is and how he is and all these things. But one of the things that he's learned, I guess starting right here, is that he values the relationship that just got established between him and Yahweh himself. And he's going to, as he walks, you're going to see how much he values it. We have to be in the same mode. How much do you really value the relationship that you have with Yeshua? What does it mean to you? Most of us have come out of church orientations, church systems. And you've heard me say before that this is not a church. And it's not a synagogue. It's where we come to learn a way of life. It's our meeting place. But we're learning how to change our lives so that we're living a life. We're not practicing a religion. And in order to change your life, it's got to have, your interaction has got to have some kind of value. It's got to mean something to you. Give you an example, those of us that are married. If my wife does not like what I do I continue doing it? I try to change. If I can change, I try to change because I want to please her. If she does things that I don't like, then she tries to change to please me because we love each other. Because we want to serve each other, we want to grow together, and we want to change so we truly can become one. So we try to change those things that are wrong in us so that we can fit together the way we're supposed to fit together. That's a simple example of how our relationship with God has to be. Now, He's not going to change because He doesn't have to. It's up to us to understand, is this relationship of so much value that I will change to please Him? Or is it one that says, well, I know you're there, but I'm just going to be who I am, and you're just going to have to love me the way I am? I've heard people say that, as a matter of fact, about our relationships to one another. Maybe you have too. Well, they just say, well, that's the way I am, so you're just going to have to accept me the way I am. Sometimes you say, no, I don't. I don't have to accept you the way you are. If you're a knothead, I'm not going to accept you the way you are.